occupied meeting. Anybody who hasn't had a chance to go through the minutes?
We did send them in, we sent the packet electronically.
Yes.
I know there's a big push to get rid of paper, but at the same time, when we send it electronically, if you don't print it out, then we copy it, so, it's like double-edged sword here, so.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of June 5th, 2025.
Second.
Second.
All in agreement? Alright. Alright, so moving on to number 4, status update on Rocky Hill Housing Authority property, 36 Willow Road renovations.
I don't know if you want to say anything, or if you want.
The groundbreaking was last Thursday, well attended. I personally haven't seen anything really being done yet. So, and I left early this morning, so I can't comment on anything currently being done. I know pretty much what you all probably know. They're gonna concentrate on the 2 vacant units. They're going to make them ADA compliant, and then move on to the units that are occupied, and then they're going to concentrate mostly on the externals, the siding, the new windows, and the roofing before they move inside to any inhabited units. So work might be being done currently in the unoccupied units, but I haven't seen anything yet.
Have they been unoccupied?
They've been unoccupied for 3 to 6 months at least. So I know that Susie was aware that we were going to be doing those units, and I think there were 4 ADA compliant units, and now there'll be 8 after everything is done. So, and any of the existing ones will be brought up to code, but those are inhabited, so they'll have to work around that.
So is there a plan as they go into units that are presently occupied to relocate people for a period of time?
They will provide relocation to an uninhabited unit. The flooring, they say that it'll take 1 day. Now, I don't know how long the conversion to walk-in showers will be, but I would think that that might be longer. But I think the units could probably be inhabited while they're doing that work.
Is that the?
But as far as the flooring, they need.
They gotta clear everything
pretty much
out.
everything out.
That's gonna take longer than the actual
Right.
replacing the floor.
So the inhabitants are responsible for boxing up everything that they have. They'll move them out into a pods unit, do the flooring, move everything back in, all within a day. So we'll see how that works. I'm assuming as they progress, they'll get more efficient with that.
Yeah, I mean, flooring, I know, usually if it's like about 2,000 square feet, they
Yeah.
knock it out in a day now.
And they're not removing any, the existing, it's going in on top of the existing linoleum tile flooring, so that should make it a lot quicker.
How long do they think the whole thing is gonna take? Moving people over and,
I know it'll run through next year, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming 12 to 18 months. And, anything, they're gonna run into some
there'll be
adjustments.
some,
But as I said, as they go on, I think they'll get more efficient. And then there's paving going to be done. They're gonna add 9 parking spaces, and they're gonna repave all of the existing asphalt too. So, it'll be a project. There'll be a lot
How
of
many units are
construction.
there total again?
There are
40 units?
40 units below, up on School Street, there's 30, but they're not doing anything, as far as I know, on School Street.
No, they're not.
What street are these on?
These are on Willow, that's diagonally across from Mosher.
And I know that they're working with a consultant to assess the remaining property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have property across the street on that corner. The southeast corner is Housing Authority property as well.
And
And,
when are
So
they
we
anticipating?
may hear something on that.
yeah,
in the
Okay,
future.
but do we know like when is like their anticipated timeline when they're gonna know whether they can, something can be built on that land or not?
I can't say.
Can't say. Because I think last meeting when we met, I think there were already people there doing the surveys and
Yeah,
stuff, right?
they're busy assessing it now.
Okay, so that's still ongoing.
That's correct. So there may be some good news down the road.
Okay.
It just, for that particular corner, I'm familiar with it, it's not the biggest property in the world.
That's correct.
Is there now something in our zoning regulations that permits them to have a higher density on that?
Well, that's one of the
Setback-
things in
with
our,
the setbacks.
in our plan too,
Yeah.
in our affordable housing plan.
Okay, but Kelson Row is permitted to have a 6-foot.
Yeah,
Yard
that's
or
because
what-
of the town center zoning.
Okay.
I believe, right, like, as long as it's classified or defined as affordable, they should be able to build
Well, if it's under
higher
eight,
density.
830G, basically
I mean,
utilities.
in that location with the school and the other densities, if there were a site that, I don't know if they could go for a variance or whatever there. Whatever. Okay, move on.
Any other
So
comments?
if you'd
questions?
like, at some point in time, we could have, as things progress further, I can ask Susan Moores if she would attend our meetings. As you know, they've
And I
been
can-
very, yeah, they've been
I
very,
give updates, because I'm
yeah.
involved.
Are you on the
Yeah,
committee?
The committee,
There's the,
I'm on the residence
Oh,
committee,
you are?
yes,
Oh,
there.
good.
So
Okay,
I'm
so
very
we have
aware of
our-
what's going on.
so we have our in-house person
Yeah, we're
already
bold.
here.
We don't need to,
Yeah, we
we
already
don't
have
need
a
to
person.
drag Sue out to another.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
she's got her
she
hands,
comes
to a
lot.
she's got
She
so
comes to a
much
lot.
going on with the
Yeah,
construction.
Unless, you know, there
and-
is some update on
Yeah.
some new structure that can be built. We'll have to hear about that.
We'll
Yeah.
probably find out about that, you know, when there's an announcement about it, you know, when something gets
The new,
fortified.
the new units
Yeah.
in the back.
Or,
They've-
More public,
Well,
Yeah.
they've done
If
some
something-
assessment, they've done,
yeah, they're working on
ground
that.
penetrating
Yeah.
radar in the back to find out what's underneath the surface. But need to be a lot of adjustments to the land there because it slopes down pretty severely to the units so that it'll have to get carved out. I've seen the blueprints of what they would like to build. So there'd be a lot of landscaping that would need to be done and leveling.
you know,
Is this on the south side?
It's on the west side, actually. It would be just below Route 99, between the existing units and Route 99.
So does the property owned by the housing authority goes to frontage on 99?
Yes.
And how far, there's a piece there where there's a rock outcrop and then
Yeah,
neighbors drop
that's-
their
that-
leaves and so on.
Yeah, they'd have to assess that, and how far they would want to go toward Route 99, what the buffer is, because that's a state road. But they've blueprinted it out, and it's available in the office. If you want me to bring in a copy for the next meeting, I can provide
Yeah,
that.
I'm
I would
curious.
check with
Sue? Yeah.
Who is the consulting engineer?
I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but again, I can find out.
Any other questions? So moving on, status update on HB 5002.
Yeah, there was a,
If I may,
Oh,
I
okay.
had a legislative meeting today, and there was a lot of concern with this. As we're all aware, that bill did pass the legislature, but it was vetoed by the governor. And the intent was they had to work on it, and then it would come out in September. They would have a short session and be able to work on it, pass it. That short session has not been called yet. We still expect it to be called third to the fourth week of September, and, which is okay. They only need a 5-day grace period between when they call it and when they go in. So that's all we have on that.
Yeah,
Are
that-
there proposals?
They have said nothing. They didn't get together yet to bang their heads.
No, this was, what you have in your packet is what would have been some of the charges under House Bill 5002. Some of these things, I know as planning and zoning staff person, I do agree with, and some of the things you may agree with. Some of them I do not. But the veto of the bill is basically taking the documentation here and reworking it, possibly modifying the language, possibly negating the whole thing. I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen with this, but we know that this, as it exists, has been vetoed.
We do.
But a lot of this is dealing with affordable housing. I put it in here because we, as the town of Rocky Hill, joined the Municipal Development Authority. It's a fledgling group. It was actually started last year, but it's still, you know, in the works of getting started. And they're looking at building housing, affordable housing along transit routes. So we're talking Sideston Highway primarily. One of the things that we wanted to do with respect to planning and zoning, and we've done in the town center zone, is create mixed-use areas where they have housing and commercial on the same property. They're talking about, in House Bill 5002, they're talking about middle housing, which is like small developments, say 4 to 10 units or whatever, maybe do infill type development along Sideston Highway, but with residences, but they would be designated affordable. So there's a few things in here that we do like. I do not like the idea of eliminating parking requirements. One of the things they wanted to do was totally eliminate any parking requirements. We can't,
For
any-
properties under 25 units,
yeah, we can't
which is
require.
still a lot.
Which is.
You know, but we have modified our regulations so to comply with the current state regulations, which are 1 space per 1 bedroom, 2 spaces for 2 or 3 units. So that does cut down on construction costs for somebody coming in building a multifamily development, less paving, you know. So we are complying with some of these things. So, but take a look at that in your spare moment, if anybody has one, and see what they were asking us for. They're talking about vacant land inventory, which I don't think is a bad idea. To have a town do a vacant land inventory. I mean, we have open space inventories here, but it's designated open space. So yes, it's vacant land, but there's other vacant lots that are privately owned that we should maybe put into a database for, you know, for whatever reason, whether it be commercial development, housing, open space acquisition, what have you. So that's why I put that in there, and I thank you for that update in that time frame, because I know it's supposed to be coming up, but we haven't heard anything.
My understanding is that the powers that be haven't been able to come together on the terms of a new bill, and so they haven't set a timeframe for it on what everybody can agree on.
Well,
I-
sometimes it's compromise,
Yeah.
but it should be, but.
I didn't get a chance to read through the whole document, but is there any mention of any kind of funding to help kickstart these kind of projects?
There were some things in there.
There is some.
There was some funding.
There were some things in there, yeah. I don't know if I highlighted this.
I think it was bonding around CHFA, something like that. With financing certain things, depending on where they are.
So So more like preferable financing.
Yeah,
Can't remember though, I might be thinking of something else.
yeah, they're talking about OPM funding, like council of governments, transit pedestrian improvements that promote housing growth, that's in
What is
there.
OPM?
Office of Policy Management,
Okay.
State
Yep.
Department. So they have a lot of different things. This Municipal Development Authority, they also connect municipalities to funding resources for a variety of things. They also connect municipalities to consultants. So, for example, our affordable housing plan is due to be updated and take effect 2027. So we have to do another one, obviously every 5 years. So they would help us connect with the consultant to help. So, they also, the Municipal Development Authority also looks at our zoning regulations, and I've given them a copy of our Plan of Conservation and Development and our zoning regulations as they currently exist, because we have to start that process, updating them. And they take a look and review that with respect to transit-oriented development and respect to housing and housing options. So we have another set of eyes on that, which is great. So hopefully this group will partake in it, and that's what I want to talk about under any other business. There's some of the regulations that I think with some research or whatever, we can get you folks involved with that.
All right, moving on to number 6, discussion of the affordable fund.
Yeah, I found something from Stanford. I'm thinking about the town of Rocky Hill, and what I'm seeing when they create an affordable housing fund. Typically, they use a certain percentage of maybe building department fees, zoning permit fees, which are minimal as far as zoning permit fees, but zoning application fees. There's also some set-aside money that the town would put in. This budget year was, having gone through it, and I know others have been here during that time period, I know they were looking to keep things to a minimum. So I don't know how that would go over at the council level, but there has to be an ask. There has to be an ask if we want to do this. And maybe through grant money to provide some seed funding, maybe that's a way to get it going. So
For any grant money, we need to have something that we can present to them.
that's correct.
Right.
So,
So catch-22.
yeah, yes, that's the way I
Just
kind of feel.
in general discussion, before I would make a formal motion,
Yeah.
I sort of think that we're here because of state law, we're here because it's an obligation of the town council.
Yes.
It doesn't say shall have
That's correct.
funds.
That's correct.
But certainly, Rocky Hill is hugely diverse of people from background and economic means. At a time, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we had a moratorium on common wall dwelling apartments and condominiums because based on CROG, we had a huge percentage, and we still have a very large percentage of condos which were apartments, and now we're having apartments at the very high end. So I think that the fathers and mothers, or whatever we want to call them, of the town, there's, in a sense, I know this is being recorded, maybe they're going along because they have to. State law says we have to meet and we have to talk. Doesn't mean that the town has to fund. But I think as a goodwill gesture, it's worth asking the town council to put something up. I was a big foe, and I didn't like the idea of giving the developer of Kelson Row, my calculation, over $20 million. You can argue what it is, but they're only paying $88,000 a year right now. I think if then we want to go and ask and beg in front of the Hartford Foundation of Public Giving or Liberty Bank or anybody to say, we're trying to do affordable housing, I think the town that we represent needs to do something. And that's my personal opinion. I don't know whether this commission wants to take a position in any way, but I think that it should.
I think it's something to consider in lieu of every apartment complex that has come in has offered a percentage of deed restricted affordable housing. And there's still a question, I think, from the town is how is that going to be administered? Perhaps in lieu of asking developers to do that, we seed a fund with money to do 100% affordable housing instead of just a portion of things that are going to be built anyway. That might not satisfy their need to receive financing under CHAFA. Kelson Row, 10% of theirs has to be deed restricted affordable on top of the other 10 that they did in order to receive the financing that they got. I think a couple other people are doing that too, and then the 830G proposals that have come through are 30% deed restricted affordable, which they have to do to get their 830G through. But I think it might be something to consider in lieu of having a developer come in and set aside 10%, 20%, which then we also have to manage somehow, confirming that they're doing this. A portion of their costs is set aside into a fund that goes to the housing authority or somewhere else to build new units that maybe also hit the needs that we have in the 40 and 60%, not just 80%. Perhaps that's a better long-term solution, but I don't know how that maths out.
And that's what, and in the Stanford, they have that too. You have that option.
Yeah.
And now that's worked out during the application process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about control. Under the affordable housing plans, there's an annual report that needs to be submitted at the end of the year, and I'm getting ready to
Right.
send out a letter to at least those that have at least broken ground
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, because that's my concern, and I know I've reached out
Yeah.
about that is, okay, we've got, 234, 225, whatever, I forget now, Kelson Row. Are the 20% that they're doing affordable intermixed already, or are they building 80% of them at full price, and then the last 20% that they fill?
No, they're
intermixed.
intermixed.
I know the units are intermixed, but because there's no differentiation between the units, but the tenants that they take in, are they, as they build them, are they 20% all the way along?
Oh, that may not be the case.
I
don't know. I
Would
don't.
not put it past them to wait until the last 20% is affordable,
I think at Kelson Row, I heard a report from someone who inquired about a reduced income unit, and it was a window for which you can qualify, maybe it was the 80%, but then you're still required to have more. So because of the absolute level of median family income, or whatever the
Yeah.
statistic that they're
It's
using,
96,000 for a
it's
single
really
person,
not that
76.
affordable, not in the sense that rational people believe in
Well,
affordability.
when you look at the actual, what is affordable?
Yeah, it's area median income for a, you know,
For-
one
for-
one individual is 96,000 in Rocky Hill, so 80% of that is like 76,000.
Yeah.
Which is high.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's high, and it's difficult, but they're not 100% full, but they are offering
Yeah.
units.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
But I mean, the greatest need is for 60%
Or 40, or,
Yeah.
you know,
Certainly less than 80.
Yes.
yeah.
And I think the regulations, as we go through and do zoning regulations, we need to actually put that in there and say, we're gonna have,
Well,
it's gonna be required, and it's gonna be.
Well, the question is, you know, if they build 100 of them, but they're building them in phases, they won't build them all at the same
Yeah,
time.
but I'm
So
saying, you know.
100, does that mean 80 of them are regular and 20, you know, and then they do the next 100?
But you're correct in asking, the law says one thing, their practice may be another. They may be using the units that front by the bump in the road, by the stoplight on Main Street as the affordable housing units or something. I don't know.
They might pick and choose some, but
I don't know how they're doing that.
practically that's hard to do. It's, you know, because people move in and out at different times and stuff.
It is, but their motivations are profit-oriented. So I don't know how they're handling that, and I lost what I was going to say. Okay.
But also to your point of the previous moratoriums, because of the way that things were set up, I think it would behoove us, and this is something I've said a number of times, I think it would behoove us to be proactive about, you know, tackling our affordable housing plan that we already have, and so that we are not at the whims of 830G proposals to build things where we would not necessarily prefer them to be. And until we're proactive about, you know, adding to the numerator without necessarily adding to the denominator.
Right. You need to get more than what they're offering.
Then,
Yeah. So here's the
Affordable
thought
housing.
that I lost that I've now regained.
you're welcome.
Is that instead of saying 80% of median family income, I don't know how the state is throwing, or the federal government, the words workforce housing and so on.
Yeah.
Way back when you thought about, well, what would an entry-level school teacher,
Yeah.
could they live in the town, or a police officer? And police officers are tough because they get all that overtime from the utilities. But certainly for an entry planner or something, what could they afford to live in the town that they work? And that would be a number that would move every year, and certainly the 80% of median, that moves all the time also. But we are going through the motions on a lot of things here about what affordable is, and, you know, maybe do we have to create our own index about the type of people that we think need affordable housing? You know, the first thing is try to meet the regulations that now are being also increased. You know, just the reporting, okay, what are we doing? And frankly, I don't think we're doing that much, which we'll get to later in the agenda. You know, the Kelson Rows and so on, they have lawyers they're following. Okay, in order to get 220 units, I have to have 10% says this way or whatever, and they have to meet these conditions. And the auditing problem, we don't have to audit them, do we? I thought the auditing was an obligation of the owner, no?
Correct. And they have to report back to the town.
Like annually.
It's an annual thing.
And then we send the total numbers to the state.
Yes.
But I don't think, have they updated 2024 numbers?
We have 2025 numbers, and I printed them out, but I don't know if they're here. I don't think.
Because every time I check,
They
Because,
they are doing affordable.
well, they have,
as
we
they
have,
go.
I'm sorry, I looked up the income. That's what I looked up.
Mm.
I didn't look up the numbers.
because the last numbers I saw reported from the state was 2023.
Okay.
So I don't think it's on the state's
No.
website for 2024
I
numbers.
was-
Are
They
you
don't
telling
do
us
it.
how many units the
Income.
state thinks we have?
Correct.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
still-
wrong because of the Elm Street apartments.
Well, it's,
Well, yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
Can you
And there's other
elaborate
ones.
on that?
So the state,
With the Elm Street though?
so the state calculates that affordable housing percentage and that number based on, you know, the way that they calculate them, which is people using vouchers, deed restricted,
Yeah.
affordable units, you know, like ultimately these developments will all have a certain number. And
CHFA mortgage.
yeah, CHFA mortgages, I think USDA, which we don't have here anyway. And
There are about 5 principal.
yeah, and then that's what calculates out our percentage, and we're compared to everybody else, and when we're over 10, then that means that 830G doesn't apply.
Right,
But we have a lot of other units that might actually be affordable, but it's not calculated in those numbers. You know, it's,
Not by
And
regulatory
including, you're
requirement.
referring to Elm?
Okay.
Those
Well-
are not included?
Well, Elm Street Commons, I believe, they're across from the tennis club. I
Yeah.
think there are 3 or 4 buildings.
Yep.
Were originally developed by a local developer as restricted income through CHFA, HUD and CHFA. And that was based on the 40-year requirement, which is underlying the whole idea of identifying affordable housing. And
but that's expired now.
well, what's interesting is, I contacted the CHFA and I've provided that to Kim. They, in like the
6
last 3 or 5 years, it is eliminated is the short answer. I'm not sure why, but so they're
Probably
not.
refinanced it.
But,
and said
but
we don't
there
need that.
are some units that are.
Not there. The property owner says we don't have any. The CHFA officer says they're not restricted.
Yeah.
No, I believe they're not deed restricted, but you may have
I'd be
some,
willing to bet there's residents
you have
that
some,
use vouchers.
yes.
Well,
that would
vouchers is a
qualify.
Yes.
separate category.
It's a-
It's
yeah,
not
but
what
it's
we're
still
talking about for the.
affordable housing.
Yeah. And that goes into the state's number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a significant number, which sets Rocky Hills.
Percentage down.
Percentage.
Yeah, 'cause
from
that went
maybe
down.
4 point something to
It was like-
2 point something.
No, I think it went from 4.65 to 4.1 something.
But
It went
not
down.
Not on the 2023
Oh, okay.
numbers.
2023 was 4.68.
Yeah, and
So
I
it-
don't
it's
know
gone
if there's
down
a
from there, I
subsequent.
believe.
Remember, the guy who was the head of the state housing that kept track of all this, he said, oh yeah, I'll contact. He never did anything, he never got back to me. And at that point, I said, nobody cares. And now they want you to put it in an annual report. Nobody cares.
Going back
All right.
to the
Wow,
Back
that
to, back to the agenda. Where were we?
Number 6.
But I do agree with Charlie that if you don't ask, they don't know. You know, when you're talking about like funding and things like that, if you don't ask, if you don't express interest, if you don't get up in front of a town council meeting and say something.
Well, it's an election year, and, you know,
We're
maybe
not-
there'll
we're
be
not-
some party
that's
that'll
not-
take a position.
That's not,
Well,
that's not why we're here.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to ask for that money to be seeded directly from the town. But perhaps future developments or something like that.
Let's go
Yeah.
on to the
Yeah.
existing agenda and get to the rest of the items.
I
So,
second.
I think we should bring this up again on the next meeting. Maybe we can come up with better ideas on how we can at least start building a fund. I understand getting money from the town is probably not the most workable solution, at least right now.
Under item
Um,
9, we talk about what's going to be on the next agenda, and then I have to
Okay.
talk about the date of the next meeting.
All right, so discussion on the former I-291 property.
I've talked with our town manager multiple times on subject. And I've asked multiple times to have someone from this board go to the council meeting to talk about it. As like, okay, we're interested in the property, even as a placeholder, just to say, we'd like the state to know that there's some interest. That doesn't mean we're running out and buying it tomorrow. But just to say that we're interested in investigating and finding out a little bit more.
What if we rephrase that? I don't mean
Well,
to interrupt.
Well, they've already gone through this
Right.
from in 2012, 2022 and 2023, that time frame they went through it. And because of the cost, he said, no.
But we
Cost of
didn't
the-
exist at that time, so we didn't have input together.
Right.
Oh, I'm aware, I'm just.
Okay.
Is that the cost of the land or the cost of
I'm just-
developing it?
Just the
Well,
land.
The land is all that they
Yeah.
looked at.
Yeah, because the developing, that's a whole nother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
since
a-
it, since it was so recently, and 2023 is not, since it was so recently that we did approach the state, we did get a number from them. Can't we just go back to the state and say, hey, can you reaffirm this number or tell us what it would be?
Well, I think that there needs to be somebody from this body maybe going to the council to say, okay, once again, we're interested. And I talked
I
to.
would be happy to do that
But-
with the understanding that I'm not up there to try to get the town to buy this property. I'm up there to get a real number so that then we can look at grants and gifts we can work through Carrie. Sir?
We just spoke about funding, and I think maybe there was a consensus that the town of Rocky Hill, based on its present financial position, right, let's not get into any other motivation, financial position, is unlikely to add to the 2026, 2027 budget money for affordable housing, for anything. I think they need to do a nominal thing, but as to what could the town do to send a signal and to help us and to help if there was a trust fund, is that I heard what Kim just said about, and I wasn't involved in 2023 or whatever, that there was a cost. But I'm hearing from the state representative who brought the paperwork to the town that they need an affirmative desire to control that land for the purpose of affordable housing. And then that lets the state rep work within that black Pandora's box of financing to kind of move, whatever they move from one place to the other place, that it effectively becomes the purchase by the town of Rocky Hill. And having worked with CHFA for 30 years, often in urban areas, in Hartford, if they wanted to take a part of one building that was adjacent to a parking lot that they had given money for, they have ways of doing it. And so what may be written as a loan to, for this example, the town of Rocky Hill, then has a clause that says if the housing is developed for affordable housing purposes as part of, the public policy of the state of Connecticut, we can waive the repayment, or whatever the words are. And that, I feel frustrated that someone over there or in one of these rooms is saying we don't have the money. Because they're not understanding how the state works. The state works in strange ways. They're not entirely to be
Mysterious ways.
negative, but there's a way to convert a sales contract, the state of Connecticut to the town of Rocky Hill, that says, we'll loan you the money to do it, and then we'll forgive the loan. And that happens every day, all over the state of Connecticut.
I don't think we're disagreeing between you and I in what we want to do. I may be wrong, but I don't think the council has been presented with what we want to do yet. And I know Kim has tried to get it up there. I know that. So I believe the next council meeting is the 18th. And I'm going to be there anyway.
My suggestion was, I mean, obviously, if it's not a agenda item, and I have that tickler out to the town manager, if it's not an agenda item, that at least come in under public. And somebody
Yes.
get up and,
I have no problem.
Shh.
no.
No.
I think, I think
Just talk.
you guys are of the party in power, and nobody likes surprises, and,
I do. Oh, I'm sorry.
okay. I think you know what the goal is, and I think you're both sharp enough and understanding enough of how the process works. Go make it work. I won't say anything.
I'd be happy to go and speak for us as long as you all understand what I would speak about. And I don't believe this is a one-party approach. I think this is our committee speaking. And I'd be happy to have any of you come along.
I'll be
My-
there,
Yeah,
I'll be
because I'm there for public safety, so I'll be.
I think once this piece of land is identified and there's some percentage, I don't know what to assign the probability as, that it would work, then you could go to the Hart Foundation of Public Giving. Then you could go to corporate entities and other charitable
We agree.
funds and say, this has helped,
Yeah.
we want to put the Liberty Bank unit up. You know, we need 50 grand for you because we're going to put up small apartment, something. It just, we need to get over the problem with the town. I still don't think that the town of Rocky Hill, as represented by the town council, is a board with affordable housing.
I don't agree with you, but that's okay. We can.
Well, great, that's the best thing I've heard tonight.
Yeah.
I think the goal right now is to go to the town, ask them, you know, would they consider
Would they please help us by taking the next step?
taking the next
Because
step?
we don't know if we can get a grant or get the
For all we
gift
know, that place.
until we get the number.
Yeah.
But I think where we're at is that we need the town to say that they want it before our state rep, state senator, can go and try to work a deal like Charlie's talking about of getting it.
In essence, that's true.
Deed it
except
to us.
I wanted to tweak or ask a little bit of our presentation, to not have them say they want it again, but to ask if the number is still the same. Because that's the same ask.
The words were, the state wanted 261,000 from the town last year. This was in 2023.
How many acres was this?
5
I don't
Pretty
remember.
bulk.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
5.3.
5.3 acres.
And it's pretty much usable land. But,
Yes, we agree.
I mean,
Yeah.
all of this, where existing state laws, proposed state laws, laws that take away the town of Rocky Hill's control of its own town development. It's forcing it. I think it creates an issue where you don't want it. You don't want it crammed into you. Here we have a piece of land that the state rep says she can get for us, and maybe you need to speak to her again, I don't know.
I'm sure we will.
That if we can't do this, then forget it. We're not gonna get anything done.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I'm
And
sorry.
we have, once we get that property, if we can go the full process out, the 10 years to get it built, that's 100% affordable housing. That truly helps our numbers.
All right, so everybody in agreement that we should approach the town council, maybe as part of the public.
Well, now, keep in mind, if I could get the item on the agenda, there can be a give and take. If it's under public, and I've had this drilled into me by sitting in the meetings, under public, there is no give and take with the town council. They will hear what you say,
At 90 seconds.
and,
They can ask questions.
Take it under
but they-
advisement.
no,
No, they-
no, they do not make comment, ask questions
as,
under public.
as current policy.
That's,
Right.
so therefore.
Been there 100.
At least
So
we gotta get the
therefore-
word out.
But I'm pushing for getting on the agenda,
Agenda.
so.
So if it goes on the agenda, great, if
And
not,
if not, it'll be under
at least
public,
we
so
gonna
at least
put it
others
out
will
there,
know about it, and then it will
and
be
they
on
would
the.
consider it. Alright, so.
I mean, the agenda in the summer is pretty light anyway. right?
But it's, well, it's not up to me, I'm not.
I know,
concerned.
but I'm just saying, this would be the time of year to add something like this discussion on the agenda, and then just have somebody, you know, have been, talk
I'll
about it.
speak with you before this happens.
Yeah, because I'm there anyways.
How much lead time is needed to get something on the agenda?
Well, I've put in the request, so.
Yeah,
I-
but-
I don't know.
I think they need 48 hours.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
It comes out on like Thursday or
Okay.
Friday.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that quick.
It hasn't come up yet, so.
Yeah. All right,
So
that's
everybody on
encouraging.
board
Yes.
with approaching the town
Yes.
council
Yes.
for the property of
So
item
it's
91?
unanimous.
And then item number 8, any other business? Kim, I believe you had something.
Well, I wanted to talk about the, well, oh yes, any other business. We are in the process, actually, we haven't even started it yet, but we're going to be updating our town zoning regulations to conform with our plan of conservation and development. But if you look in your affordable housing plan, and you should be, there are areas where, and I've marked out some other things, but there are many things in here that talk about regulation updates, where planning and zoning is the primary leader, but a push from the Affordable Housing Committee, and maybe attendance at one of their meetings, and I control that agenda with the chairman, so that's an easy agenda to get onto. So we're talking about integrating more housing options and choices, about the town center, you know, mixed uses, middle housing, creating maybe different percentages as far as, you know, the more moderate income and lower income, you know, and actually requiring.
So are there
it.
specific items from here that we want to change in the
Yes.
zoning regs?
And that's in your housing plan.
Okay.
That's in your affordable
Yeah.
housing plan, so, do we want to adopt inclusionary zoning, de-restricted units? So it's in here, allowing and requiring affordable units in any residential development. Anytime anything is built in a residential zone, has any residential component whatsoever, there's a requirement for affordable units. That's in here.
Should that be on our agenda to discuss?
We could certainly add it to the next meeting's agenda.
Because the ultimate goal is to have a specific motion or decision from this body to share with, to move it up to that body.
To move it to plan, well, this is the plan P and Z put together for you guys to
Yeah.
implement.
But
And
now
it's
that P and Z
regulations.
created that for us and we were created subsequent to that, now do we have the ability to
Yeah. Say, hey,
recommend to
yeah.
P and Z and then P and Z has to approve what we recommend?
But we're gonna be updating these anyways. We're gonna be updating them, and as part of that, there's certain things that I would like to see in there, and that's allow that in here.
So should we do in our next agenda, these are the 10 things that we want
Yes,
to
they-
recommend to planning and zoning?
But not general like last time. There were a few things that were generally recommended. I'm gonna resurrect those again, so you can see what those were, but they were but actual, take a regulation and write the regulation.
Yeah.
And hash out the regulations here.
Okay.
And then propose them as
Okay.
part of the update.
Save them the then we can do it and they don't have to worry about it. Like, here you go, we already did all the work for you. Here you go.
Kim, in doing that, is there a depository that the Department of Housing has that, rather than us attempt to draft?
You don't have to draft everything. I mean, you can, and the CROG website has regulations from all the CROG towns. Or if you go to another COG, they have the regulations.
Could you then
Yeah,
sort
and
of
I can give
look
you-
and pick out
yeah,
what you think
give you
is
examples.
most
Yeah.
appropriate
Yeah.
for Rocky Hill,
Yeah.
given the rest of
Yeah.
our flavor?
Sounds good. Sounds like a very productive meeting in the future.
Possibly a long.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Um, One of the other things I did want to talk about then would be documentation requirements, but I don't know if we want to tackle that with this.
You mean documentation?
Because I know in our documentation requirements for affordable units, we have, so that we as staff would then have like an affordable housing package that we would give developers when they have to require affordable units, and hopefully all would. Where there would be an affordability plan included, a fair housing marketing plan, copies of sample deed restriction. So we would kind of standardize what people are submitting to the town.
Yeah.
We vet those documents eventually. We vet them once we find out, when we finalize them, we vet them with our town legal counsel to make sure it passes muster. And that way, it's like, here's your application, here's the documentation you have to submit back. That way, it's standard. Because, right now, we're starting to get in affordable housing documentation.
But it's all in different formats and.
Well, we're trying to standardize it as it
Yeah.
comes in, because we didn't have any.
Yeah.
We didn't have any. So I like the idea, and it's in here, to try to kind of standardize it, and we're gonna tell you what you need to let us know.
Yeah.
It's reasonable.
Okay, so Alan's earlier point about getting information, Kelson Row is X% occupied. I don't know what it is, and
It's like 75 or something by now.
the one behind McDonald's,
Step.
Conover one, is they,
That they only have a CO for their community building.
okay, but they're approaching the point at which they may be having occupancy,
And
maybe
they
they've
have,
leased.
they have a plan too. They have
Okay,
one of
so,
these
but
too.
are we, what entity of the town gets copies of what they submit to the, is it to us first, to the state? I don't remember.
We get it. Now, keep in mind, these are required by our regulations. There's no state requirement.
Unless they get
These
special
are Rocky
financing.
Hill regulations?
These are Rocky Hill,
Unless it's part of the terms of their
Yeah,
CHFA
yeah.
financing.
yeah, then they
So-
would get that.
So as
Yeah.
COs are given, I don't know, by building or sections of a building, however they do it, presumably as they lease up, what is their obligation? Is it an annual report?
It's
Do
an
you have to do it
annual
like
report.
the end of the year?
And it's the end of the year.
So it could be
So
January,
it
and they're
will
not
be-
gonna do anything.
It will be, as I said to Alan before the meeting started, I'm getting ready to do a draft letter to start doing that, because we just started this. This
Okay,
is gonna be our first year doing this.
Is that part of what this commission deals with, or is that just part of your job? And you can report to us?
I can report that to you.
But under the affordable housing document that you have there, is
Which
that?
this,
No, the one that was approved by the council 2 or 3 years ago.
that's this.
Okay. Does that require that the Affordable Housing Commission do a report? Or is it just that they are
No,
aware that
the
there is a
developers, the
report?
developers do the report.
They send
And
it to
they-
Kim, and then Kim
Yeah.
has to
well,
send all of that to the state.
yeah.
Okay, but we don't have any involvement in that?
We can get the information.
Well, I understand
Yeah,
that, but I mean,
certainly
just in
can.
terms of a shell.
Yeah, you can. I mean,
No, I'm not trying to create work,
We
I'm just
may,
trying to understand.
and from what it sounds like, we may get a copy of what that report looks like the one that we get back.
Yeah.
Is
Okay,
that a
but-
standard report or like everybody keeps that report?
But this requirement that they're proposing.
Okay, that's,
Will that then make it,
post the annual report on the housing authorities. That's housing authorities, that's Rocky Oak, that's Susan Moore's.
okay, that's not,
housing authorities.
I was reading
No,
that
that's
housing
not-
commissions.
It says housing authorities. That-
Okay.
Yeah, that's Susan Moore's. We're not that. We don't oversee, we're not the executive director.
And
of
don't
housing.
automate.
No. No.
So, on the next meeting, right, you supposed, we discuss about some of the regulations that we wanna
Yeah, I'll get copies.
recommend to the planning
Yeah,
and zoning
and
board,
it's based upon this.
based on, yeah.
And there may be others, because this is a framework, but there may be others that we can do.
Right.
I mean, the middle housing, I love that idea. And that's, I think it's in there, but, I know we talked about, in the past, we talked about tiny homes. Tiny homes has specific building codes. That's not necessarily a zoning code, because it's based upon square footage, so that's more of a building code, but that may be something that you want to allow under this. Affordable accessory apartments. Maybe accessory apartments should just be, if you want to do an accessory apartment, it must be designated as an affordable unit. I don't know if that's something.
How does that get reported and all that stuff?
Right.
Yeah, something to think
Well,
about.
yeah, there's a
Something to talk
lot
about.
of,
Yeah, so we can add that to the next meeting agenda, right? And then standardizing the paperwork. I think that's something that can follow late on one of the later meetings. Any other items?
Next meeting?
Next meeting?
Oh, yeah, change the date for the next meeting.
yeah, I'm wondering if we can, I don't know if that's, okay, please vote.
So
It's my husband's birthday, that's the only reason.
Oh, so-
I'll be honest with you.
That's a valid reason.
Why would you not?
I know, but that's, I know.
And we
Most
can
people
only
would
do
say-
this on Thursdays, right? Or what are the alternate days that
Well,
we
it
have
would be,
availability?
a different day of the week, but it may be a different location.
I don't think the location bothers us.
Right.
I think we're all flexible.
Yeah.
When is Labor Day?
First,
It's the first.
Okay, and our meeting was supposed to be the second.
Fourth.
I'm
the
sorry, I'm
fourth.
looking at
Do we
October.
want to move
I'm looking at October.
to, instead of
Oh, yeah.
blowing a Friday night, do we want to move
No,
to?
we never do a Friday.
Do we
We
wanna-
never do a Friday.
No, because,
No.
you know,
they
Kim
don't-
wants,
they
Kim
don't-
needs to get along with her weekend.
No, they don't, they never do.
Especially
no
your
one-
birthday.
No one ever does Fridays.
I know. So can we move to Wednesday?
Wednesday, I was gonna ask, the third, does that work out?
Even if we're in like the craft room or something?
it's a nice room.
It's not bad, right?
A lot of windows.
Yeah.
I think that would work. The location to be determined. Okay.
Yeah, 9/3?
But definitely not
Maybe it
night.
won't even be on camera, so Charlie can say what he really wants to.
I don't care.
Don't shoot you.
9/3 at
I got
6
that.
p.m.
Nobody will listen.
I need to tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you a story later.
So 9/3, 6 p.m.
It's not
and
a-
venue to be decided, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, location to be determined.
Oh, I can't move that. That's not on my calendar, that's on the town's calendar.
Location to be determined. And then it will be considered a special meeting, so.
Yeah,
get
so you
your
gotta do
agenda
that.
That will just say a special meeting.
Okey-doke.
If I may, going forward, just, I want you all to know, because of my other responsibilities in town, for the next 3 months, I may or may not be able to show up at every meeting.
Because it's crazy
crazy.
It's crazy season.
Yes, it is.
Noted.
All right, unless anybody has anything else to add,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in agreement?
Yep.